But look, we're gathered here knowing deep in our hearts that the country we love is in trouble. We live in a country in which somehow, despite spending £54 billion a year on defence, the number of military-age males that has entered the United Kingdom illegally via small boats now exceeds the total available soldiers to the British Army. Most are from Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, not necessarily the friendliest nations to this country. The Tories and now Labour have voluntarily inflicted a national security emergency in this country. But change is coming. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a moment, just visualise the day, in just a few short years' time, when Prime Minister Nigel Farage triumphantly arrives at number 10 Downing Street. Having put his briefcase down on the desk and taken a seat, he picks up the phone and calls the First Sea Lord, and he will issue an order. He will order His Majesty's Royal Navy to see to it that not a single unauthorised vessel crossing the English Channel makes it to the shores of the United Kingdom. Now, I'm well aware that the procedure is to go via the Minister of Defence, but I think Nigel should make that call himself, don't you? Yes. So look, the Royal Navy will embark on a humanitarian mission to pick up those attempting this incredibly hazardous journey, ensuring no one is harmed and taking them back to France for their own safety. We'll leave the ECHR, we will replace it with a British Bill of Rights.
Zai Yusuf's speech encapsulates a charged narrative that intertwines national security, immigration, and political transformation, presenting a vision designed to resonate with those feeling disillusioned by the current state of governance. He paints a stark picture of a United Kingdom overwhelmed by illegal immigration, emphasizing a statistic that the number of military-aged males entering the country via small boats exceeds the total personnel of the British Army. This comparison is rhetorically powerful, tapping into public concerns about national security and sovereignty, while framing the government's inability to address this issue as a failure of leadership. Yusuf strategically connects this perceived crisis to broader frustrations with both Conservative and Labour administrations, holding them accountable for what he describes as a self-inflicted national security emergency. Central to his vision for change is the hypothetical rise of Nigel Farage as Prime Minister, a symbolic figurehead for a drastic policy overhaul. Yusuf's imagery of Farage entering number 10 Downing Street and immediately taking decisive action is calculated to evoke hope among supporters who long for assertive leadership. By suggesting that Farage bypass traditional chains of command, such as the Minister of Defence, and directly issue orders to the First Sea Lord, Yusuf reinforces the idea of a leader who is not bound by bureaucracy or hesitant in making critical decisions. This hypothetical scenario frames Farage as a decisive, no-nonsense leader, contrasting him with the perceived inertia of current politicians. The proposed solution Yusuf outlines involves deploying the Royal Navy to intercept and redirect unauthorized vessels back to France, framed as a humanitarian mission to ensure safety for those attempting dangerous crossing. By emphasizing the humanitarian aspect, Yusuf attempts to preempt accusations of inhumanity or cruelty, presenting the policy as one of firm but compassionate enforcement. However, the underlying message is clear. The United Kingdom will no longer tolerate unchecked illegal immigration, and measures will be taken to reassert control over its borders. Yusuf also underscores the need for structural reform, advocating for Britain's withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights, ECR, and its replacement with a British Bill of Rights. This reflects a broader narrative of reclaiming sovereignty, distancing the UK from what is perceived as restrictive international frameworks, and re-establishing a system tailored to the nation's needs and values. Such a move would likely resonate with those who view the Eker as an obstacle to effective immigration control. While the speech is rhetorically compelling, it raises several points of contention. Yusuf's framing of immigration as a direct threat to national security simplifies a complex issue, reducing the motivations and circumstances of migrants to their countries of origin and perceived hostility. Furthermore, the vision of unilateral naval action and withdrawal from the Eker could provoke significant international backlash, particularly from European neighbors and human rights organizations, complicating diplomatic relations. Overall, Zia Yusuf's speech is a masterclass in populist rhetoric, combining stark warnings about the present with an aspirational vision of the future. It taps into public anxieties about immigration, sovereignty, and ineffective governance, while presenting a leader and policies designed to address these issues decisively. However, the proposal's potential effectiveness and ethical implications remain deeply divisive, highlighting the complexities of balancing national security, humanitarian concerns, and international obligations.
But the fact remains, there is still suspicion, widespread suspicion, that there is cover-up because of the nature of these crimes and those who perpetrated them. And thus you not agree with me that there is need for a national inquiry, because it is now seen that it is a wider problem than what was originally envisaged. Secondly, the cover-up by public bodies has been disgraceful. And thirdly, there are allegations that CPS had a role in ensuring that people were not prosecuted. So rather than this being hiding behind the rhetoric that this is a far-right demand, would you not accept that this is a reasonable response from a government that says it wants to deal with the problem and wants to restore public confidence?
Secretary. Ultimately, what you need is the police investigations. The police, in the end, are the ones who have the powers to get to the truth about perpetrators who are committing crimes, to gather the evidence, to get them before court and to get them behind bars.
Sammy Wilson's statement and Yvette Cooper's response reflect the deep tension and complexity surrounding the public discourse on the handling of sexual exploitation cases in the UK, particularly those involving grooming gangs. Wilson highlights three central concerns: the need for a national inquiry, the perception of cover-ups by public institutions, and allegations of prosecutorial negligence by the Crown Prosecution Service, KEEP. His argument emphasizes the widespread belief among the public that the nature of these crimes and the cultural or ethnic backgrounds of the perpetrators may have led to a reluctance to investigate and prosecute thoroughly. Wilson asserts that such failures have undermined public confidence in the government's ability to address the issue transparently and effectively. By framing his call for an inquiry as a reasonable response rather than a far-right demand, Wilson seeks to distance his stance from politicized rhetoric and position it as a pragmatic solution aimed at justice and accountability. Wilson's concerns about institutional failures resonate with broader criticisms of systemic neglect and cover-ups. High-profile cases such as those in Rotherham and Rochdale have revealed shocking failures by local councils, law enforcement, and social services to protect vulnerable children. Wilson's reference to the CPs adds another layer of gravity, suggesting that prosecutorial discretion, or the lack thereof, may have been influenced by political or social sensitivities surrounding the ethnicity of the perpetrators. If true, these allegations represent a failure not only of justice for the victims, but also of the broader institutional integrity of the UK's legal system. In response, Yvette Cooper redirects the focus to the role of the police, emphasizing their authority and responsibility in investigating crimes, gathering evidence, and ensuring that perpetrators are brought to justice. Her argument underscores the importance of strengthening law enforcement mechanisms rather than launching another inquiry. This perspective highlights the practical challenges of addressing systemic failures while avoiding politicization or the diversion of resources. Cooper's emphasis on empowering the police reflects an understanding that addressing such crimes requires not just inquiries, but actionable outcomes that result in prosecutions and the prevention of further abuse. However, this exchange also underscores the limitations of both approaches. While Cooper's focus on police work is essential, it risks downplaying the value of a national inquiry in identifying systemic failings and restoring public trust. Conversely, while Wilson's call for an inquiry addresses public concerns about transparency, such efforts can be time-consuming and may not directly lead to the immediate outcomes victims and their families seek. The balance between these two perspectives, investigative accountability and operational effectiveness, remains a critical challenge for policymakers. Ultimately, the dialogue between Wilson and Cooper reflects the broader struggle to navigate the intersection of justice, institutional reform, and public confidence. On one hand, there is a demand for transparency and acknowledgement of past failures. On the other, there is a pressing need to focus resources on tangible enforcement actions that bring perpetrators to justice. The debate serves as a reminder that addressing such complex issues requires a multifaceted approach, one that combines rigorous investigations, systemic reform, and a commitment to supporting victims and restoring faith in the institutions meant to protect them. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment below, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Also, join our Telegram community for exclusive updates and discussions. See you next time.